listening to the First City Lax podcast, brought to you every week from the Florida Panhandle. Coach John and Coach JP explore the best and worst of lacrosse on the Gulf Coast. So strap your helmets on and let's go.
And welcome back once again to the podcast. This is your host, Coach John, First City Lacrosse, the second greatest lacrosse podcast on the planet, with my co-host, as always, Coach JP. Welcome, JP.
Thank you, as always.
And I have two very special guests here today. And the reason they're so special is because the teams that I coached absolutely hated playing against these two. I am very happy to announce and introduce Clarke and Noah Haas to the podcast. Clarke and Noah, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
This is going to be so much fun. So tell everybody a little bit about yourselves, talk about, and you guys can decide who goes first here, but tell everybody a little bit about sort of your background, where you're from, and your lacrosse history, what positions you played, and where you went on to college. We'll get into some of the details later, but just hit us with your little.
Hey, Clarke.
Well, we grew up in Baltimore, Maryland. I started playing lacrosse in third grade, I think. So I had been playing for 14 years. I started when I was younger on midfield, did a lot of the draw. And then we moved down to Florida when I was going into 8th grade.
I was going into my sophomore year of high school. So.
And so we obviously played on the teams at Gulf Breeze, and that's when I had switched to attack. So then I was playing attack, but also taking the draw. So I was kind of like take the draw and fall back.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went on to play NAIA lacrosse at Savannah College of Art and Design. Also SCAD, people call it SCAD, it's shorter. But I played attack there my freshman year, and then got moved back to midfield, which was awesome. And yeah, played all 4 years there, and I was a captain my junior and my senior year, but was the last time I played lacrosse was in May.
I appreciate you sharing that. And Noah, let's hit your history real quick.
Yeah, kind of the same. I mean, obviously grew up in Maryland. Like Clarke said, my sophomore year we moved down to Florida. I started playing when I was a little younger, so I started playing when I was 4. So I'm 24 now, so about 20 years. Down to Florida, kind of did attack, midfield, face-off, all of that in high school. Went on to play in college at Belmont Abbey College in Belmont, North Carolina, right outside of Charlotte. Started there my freshman year, playing attack, freshman, sophomore, and junior year. And then a coaching change, unfortunately, moved me to midfield my senior year, playing two-way midi, which is the first time I'd played defense in like 7 years. So having to learn that in college was a pretty big shift for my game style for sure. I graduated there in 2022 and then got married in 2023. So me and my wife moved from Belmont down to here in Charleston. And now I work for the City of Charleston Fire Department. Last time I played lacrosse was my senior year of college. So again, like 2 years ago, pretty much.
Okay. Wow. It's such an incredible journey, I think, and we're definitely going to dig into it. But before we do, and JP, before I let you ask any questions, I'm going to read off some of the things that your dad sent me because, I just interviewed your dad a little bit ago. And he's obviously really proud of you, and he should be, for many reasons outside of what I'm about to read. But just so the audience knows, and for those of you listening, I'm reading these because when you meet Noah and Clarke in person, they are not the type of people that are ever going to give you their resume. I've always found them to be humble and approachable and such. We always teach, be a good human. And these are two of the greatest humans on the planet. So let me just read some of these. So Clarke, here we go. freshman athlete of the year for the conference, 3-time NAIA All-American, once as an attacker and twice as a midfielder, 4-time All-Conference, 2-time NAIA All-Tournament team, 4-time All-Academic team, 2024 NAIA Women's Lacrosse Player of the Year, 2024 Sun Conference Tournament MVP, 2024 Sun Conference Offensive Player of the Year, SCAD record for goals in a game, SCAD record for goals in a season, and SCAD record for career goals, 2-time team captain, and you graduated magna cum laude. How in the world did you have time for anything else? I mean,
I have no idea.
Oh man. And so and then Noah, you have just as impressive of a resume, freshman athlete of the year at Belmont Abbey, which is no joke for those in the lacrosse community. You know how good of a program Belmont Abbey is. Conference Carolina freshman of the year, 3-time All-American, twice as an attackman, once as a midfielder, 4-time All-Conference, 2-time team captain, and number 2 all-time scorer in Belmont history. And you were selected for and played in the U.S. Intercollegiate Lacrosse Association D1, D2 Senior All-Star Game. Guys, that's incredible. The fact that you from think about like from where you started to where you sort of ended up, and obviously like you have not yet begun to that was just a chapter of your life. And now you're moving on to bigger and better things for, like for you, Noah, raising a family, and for you, Clarke, entering the workforce. And it's just, wow. How do you balance that, I guess, is the question I have.
I guess realizing that it is all about balance. So like not getting too caught up in the practices or the games, realizing that when you're there, you're giving it your all, you're 100%, but having the wherewithal to, once that game's over, step back and realize I need, for Clarke, the graduating like with such good grades, realizing that when the practice is over, the game's over, it's time for school or it's time to hang out with friends. Having that balance in your life, I mean, it makes it possible to give your 100% in all those different avenues.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think balance is so important, as well as time management in anything you do in your life, but especially playing a college sport. Like, if you let the sport, you can't like overthink it. You know what I mean? Like, you can't let it consume you and be your whole, that's all you do. Because I think that's when you start to overthink, like, actually playing the game. And like balance was just honestly like the biggest thing for me. Like Noah said, like when you're at practice, but when you leave, like I had friends that didn't even know I played on the team. Like they're like, "Oh, you're a lacrosse player?" I was like, "Yeah, I am," but like it just doesn't come
in college or in high school.
In college, yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, I think it's just giving your all in your different aspects that you have in your life was the biggest thing that helped me, for sure.
Wow. I think that's actually some great insight, especially for the players who listen. I think they're constantly trying to figure out that balance. I don't know if you guys experienced this on the high school side, but I know there's a lot of times when players are like, well, I really want to work this weekend, or I have to work. They get this thing in their head, like I have to work or I have to do this thing, and I'm not going to play lacrosse. But finding ways, it sounds like you guys did it, where you are able to compartmentalize a little bit, so you can put like, I'm going to put lacrosse in this box right here in this section of time out of this day. And then outside of that, it's going to be, I'm going to put school in this box, and I'm going to put my social life in this box. Does that sound like something that you guys maybe had to do?
Yeah, oh, yeah, for sure. And then we're also not saying, like, if you're a young athlete watching, like, it is important to continue thinking about what your coach has said in practice, or if you have a game coming up, looking forward to that game and game planning the game. But yeah, having a little bit of separation with those things is good.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. All right, we're gonna get back to business here, but just so everyone kind of gets to know you a little bit, do either of you, or both of you, have like a favorite podcast outside of this one, of course, a book or show you guys are kind of paying attention to, a YouTube channel, anything like that that our listeners should be aware of?
Well, I kind of nerd out when it comes to this, but there's a show called Outlander. It's a series.
Yeah.
It's my all-time favorite show.
Okay.
I think I've seen it 5 times through. So I have been asking for the book series for like the past 4 years for every Christmas or birthday. I have yet to get them, but hopefully this year is the one. But that is my all-time. That's nothing to do with lacrosse, but that's my all-time favorite series ever.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of YouTube, a lot of like lifting YouTube, or I like to read too. So I kind of read everything. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I have a favorite book, but I don't watch a lot of TV mm-hmm. or like series or anything.
Good for you.
Tried to get into Sons of Anarchy, but that didn't work very well.
Awesome.
It's hard to get into stuff like that.
It can be. Do you guys have a favorite player that you follow or that you previously followed, or somebody, maybe a coach or player you tried to pattern your after?
If I'm going to be completely honest, my dad. And he didn't pay me to say that.
No, you're fine. That's a great place to start. I think your dad's a great athlete. He's like you. He's a great human. And he's one of those guys, also like you, that's willing to share your knowledge and your experience. And you just share it freely for love of the game. I think that's amazing. And that's, again, that's something we try to do here. What about you, Noah? Anybody you try to pattern?
I really like
your.
Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, it's my bad. Mark Matthews.
Okay.
I watched him a lot when I was back in high school. Watched like all of his highlight tapes and stuff, and mm-hmm. on the bus to game, be in the back watching him. So pretty cool.
Okay. Awesome. Are you guys following any teams right now?
Tonight because
what's that?
I was just going to say I'm excited about tonight because last time we were interviewing your dad, I had technical difficulties, and I'm sitting there I was like, "How's this going? How's it going?" I was like, "We're still on." I was like, "I knew it." I had like a slew of questions, so just be ready.
I wasn't even going to bring it up, man, but since you did, yeah, I'm glad you got your stuff working again. Yeah. All right, so JP, I'm going to turn it over to you, man. What questions you got? I know you've been anxious about this one. So just so you guys know, Noah and Clarke, JP is sort of a new coach. He's been working with me now for a couple of years, and we just introduced him to the high school game. And I swear, at least once a week, I hear from him something along the lines of like, "Wow, this game is so much more technical at the high school level than it is at the youth level." And I'm like, yeah, wait till you see the college game. So JP, what you got? I know you
everything like yours U14.
Yeah, hit it. I know you got a ton of questions,
JP. They're gonna look at you and probably do it. So like, listen to all you guys' accomplishments. What I'm getting from it is how important it is to be humble. And how would you describe that to, players that want to be on your level? Like, I would guess, what would you call your humble motivation? That's the best thing I can think of.
Well, what comes to my mind is my dad and my granddad, called him Oompa. When I was playing youth football, it was, I feel like I'm remembering this correctly, but I scored a touchdown and I did a little celebration, and my Oompa told me, act like you've been there before. Kind of having that quiet confidence, not being cocky, showing people with sports, being confident is so important as with life, but acting like I've been here before, I've scored a goal, I've gotten an assist, I've gotten a ground ball. There's no need to celebrate the little things because, again, it's a team sport, so I'm out there celebrating a touchdown, but what about all those guys that blocked a hole for me and the quarterback handed the ball off to me, that kind of stuff. So realizing that it's a team sport, having that quiet confidence, acting like I've been there before, really helped me with my game. Lacrosse, other sports, life, just giving me that humbleness and kind of being a role model for the younger guys in the team, or even the older guys that maybe don't have that quiet confidence, showing them a good example of what it looks like.
So I think it's important for, humble, obviously, but motivation at the same time. And then we're going to go back to that big word of fundamentals. So you got to tell me how important that is in the game of lacrosse because, basics are everything. These kids, the kids are here to learn. So let's give them something to learn.
That's right. We go, Clarke? Fundamentals?
Yeah. I'm sorry. It's funny. Like every time we interview somebody, it's always that word comes up every time. No one says it. It just comes out. So it's fundamentals, like every single interview, every time. So,
well, I mean, the fundamentals really shape the game, in my opinion. Like, it's always the little things that I know, like in college, it was always like we worked on ground balls so much, and that's something that every team works on it and nobody wants to do it in practice, but it really is so crucial in an actual game that you have to work on it. And it's the same thing with we would be running our timed miles, timed whatever, cradling a ball on our stick. And it's like, oh, well, I've been playing for 14 years. Why do I have to run around cradling? But it's because that's crucial to the game, that type of thing. But also I just think, fundamentals are fundamental for the game. Yeah, it's in the word.
Yeah.
And I think
fundamentals, but
it's easy to breeze over it and to get into the X's and O's of the game of you got to run in this position in this spot, and but I feel like the biggest thing cause turnovers. That's because you've breezed over a basic in lacrosse. And I just think taking the time to work on those little things that you don't think are that important completely changes the game.
Yeah.
I was visiting one of my former players in college. Went to one of his games. One of the boys players I used to coach in high school, playing in college now. Went and he plays for a D3 team. And while I was there, I saw the girls team wrapping up practice. And when they finished practice, they all went to the wall, including the goalie, the entire team, and the coach was out there with them. And they hit the wall, playing wall ball, and they were there. And it seemed like they were there for a really long time. And I finally asked, my former player, I'm like, what's the deal? And he goes, after every practice, the coach makes them hit the wall and do 1,000 reps. They hit the wall 1,000 times after every practice. Yeah, I see your eyebrows. No, that's no joke. If those girls are going to be good at anything, they're going to be catching the ball for sure. They're going to be catching it. They're going to be hitting their target. The goalie was out there too. Everybody, 1,000 reps after practice. It seems insane, but when you think about it, you can. Yeah, it's a lot, but you can also how many reps can I do in 5 minutes? I could probably get maybe 100, maybe a couple hundred reps in 5 minutes. So when you think 1,000 reps, it might only be another 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes for the slower players. So, but that coach was going to absolutely make sure that they got the fundamentals right, throwing and catching. Those are basic parts of the game.
There's that word.
Good question, JP.
Mm-hmm.
There's that word again. Fundamentals.
Yeah.
So you guys obviously have excelled, education-wise and sports-wise. So with new players coming up, what would you say the most important thing is trying to get to your level? I'm talking education-wise and sports-wise. What would your biggest piece of advice be?
Obviously make time for both. I know we had a bounce back in the backyard. We would always be out there on the bounce back, or finish homework and start stringing lacrosse stick. Having your hands in both, you can kind of interweave it too. So if a player loves lacrosse, especially a young player, maybe having a agreement with a parent, once you finish X amount of homework, you can have X amount of time in the backyard and the bounce back before you have to come back and do the other subject of homework. So kind of making it maybe a game, making it a mission to excel in school so you have the opportunity to excel in lacrosse. Because I know a lot of players will pick lacrosse over school. I know that was kind of a topic my dad talked about last week on the podcast. That's something he really engraved in us was school is first. You can't have lacrosse if you don't have school. Lacrosse is there to make sure that you have a school to go to in the future. So really instilling in the young kids that it's not a either or. It's you need to do both school and lacrosse. So showing them the importance of both. And I guess that one is more important than the other, school.
That's one thing I run into trying to explain it to my kids. Like, you got to do both. You're not just going to do one or the other. You know, they both, one gets you to another spot, gets you in a different spot, but you're the same. You know what I mean? You're trying to be a better person, better player, but you also need to be a better student.
What were your guys' grades like in high school?
I had straight A's.
Clarke's was definitely better than mine.
You focused too much on lacrosse, Noah.
I guess so. I think Clarke had straight A's from the time she was in 7th grade, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
All throughout college, too.
Can I ask a question about that, Clarke? I hope I don't get too personal here. What was it that motivated you? What was sort of the driving factor? Why did you want to do that? Obviously, because there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into that, you know, not only in high school and being a standout athlete, but also as you go to a college and a good college and you're on a team that is competitive and so you're forced to, again, we get back to like balancing your time. What motivated you? What kind of things helped you along the way? Because I think this is important for our players to hear. They need to understand like what it takes to get there.
Yeah. To be completely honest with you, like we're obviously pretty competitive people. So having Noah would say what his grades were, and then my immediate response would be, well, these were my grades, you know? And so it's like having the competition between us kind of pushed me to be like, well, I want to be the one with the better grades. And that's just like something little, but I think once I got good grades, the thought of like then not keeping that kind of like stressed me out, or like I didn't want to like fail myself because I had set that standard of like, okay, this is what I get, so I'm going to get them kind of. But motivation, I just wanted to excel in whatever I do. And so school being the most important thing for me to excel in, I wanted to, you know, graduate with that big name on the screen that says like magna cum laude or whatever it said underneath. But yeah, it just kind of like a do it for myself type of thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a lot. Like, one last question I have is, I'm sorry, go ahead, Joe.
No, man, you're good.
No. Oh man. What do you guys do before games to get ready the mindset? But every time you guys get ready to play, like, what is there something you do, like listen to music, meditate, or what is it?
I would always like the night before kind of visualize myself in the game and kind of visualize, because I mean your coach gives you a game plan before the game, typically the week of the game, so you kind of know what the game plan is. But I would literally, like, as I'm laying in bed or whatever trying to go to sleep, I would visualize myself playing in the game and kind of like, it sounds kind of funny, but like doing little tricks and like being like, oh, I'm gonna try and score a goal this way, like so I'd visualize myself in the game. But I also had a song that I would listen to before every single game, and it's a very random song, and it's honestly really kind of weird. But it's We Are the World 25 for Haiti. And it's so random, but it's like
That's pretty random.
Everybody was coming together and doing something for a cause. So I'm like, oh teamwork. Like, that's my song. So
There you
Sing
go.
it
before
now?
every
Y'all gonna
single
sing
game,
it?
what?
Y'all gonna sing it now? Oh.
Oh, we could. But that's what I would do before a game. And then our grandfather that Noah brought up earlier, our umpa, my dad's dad, he always would say, make it happen. And so when he would text us before a game, he'd always end it with like MIH, which is make it happen. And that's something I would either write it somewhere or I would just repeat it in my head. And like, he would always say, make it happen, Clarke Haas, make it happen. So then I would think about that as I'm like walking onto the field. I'm like, all right, I got to make it happen. And that honestly helped me. But I think
That's
you did.
really cool.
Yeah, I had to make it happen. But on what she was saying earlier, I was kind of the opposite. I tried not to visualize myself in the game too much. I felt like when I would do that, I would create these situations that I would kind of get upset or down on myself. But I didn't like, if I visualized me getting like 3 goals, 3 assists in a game or whatever, or a certain move or a certain play turns out a certain way, I would get kind of, if it didn't happen during the game, the way I visualized it, I would get kind of either upset or kind of down on myself. So kind of figuring out like trying to almost not think about the game at all. Didn't listen to any like rowdy music or anything like that. Chill music, tried to chill out kind of before the game. Walking down to the game, I would get pumped up and stuff. But in the locker room, I wasn't like dancing or singing like people do or freaking out. You know what I mean? I was kind of just chilling in my locker, listening to music. Either on my helmet or my senior year, I had to wear some knee tape, but I would have the MIH on it, make it happen. So
That's really
kind of
cool.
similar, kind of different.
I mean,
That's awesome.
it shows that how important routines and rituals are. And, you know, I've talked about this with the players I coach, and that is have a routine before a game, have a ritual, something you do, and it's going to be different for everybody. And you guys are the perfect example of this where, you know, for example, like Noah, you just said, I didn't have like a set song or anything. I just had chill music and I just tried to relax. And then Clarke, you're like, I have a set song. I did it every time, like make it happen. And those are the things that worked for you. And I think there are different things that work for different players. Some players, they put their headphones in and they want to blast angry music or whatever. Some players close their eyes, and you see this, you know, I see this with goalies a lot. They close their eyes and they visualize their saves. We had a goalie once that he would, before the game started, he would get on his knees in front of the goal and he would just sit there. His stick would be on the ground. He would close his eyes and he would visualize the different shooters on the opposite team. He would visualize his clears. And that's, you know, it's the thing is, it's different for everybody, but when we realize, you know, what works for us, I have a routine before the start of every lacrosse season. I mean, I do the same thing every time, and I do a routine before the first game of the season. I do the same thing. It's just something that we find within ourselves, like, hey, I know this is going to work for me. This is going to get me in that mindset of what the next step is. And, you know, as a player or as a coach, your mindset is, I'm going to do my absolute best today. My ultimate goal is to win this game, and I'm going to be the best teammate I can or the best coach that I can. And I'm going to move past my mistakes, because we all know those mistakes happen. I'm going to move past my mistakes and end the day on a positive note. I mean, it's really not rocket science, but for some people, it might be the only opportunity they have where they get to contribute to a cause that's bigger than themselves. Would you guys agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
And some players are so nervous they puke.
Yeah. Is there anything in your history of playing that sort of stands out to you? Like, what were some of the memorable games or events for both of you guys?
Well, in college, I know my freshman year, it's not a happy ending, but it was very memorable.
Mm-hmm.
My freshman year, we made it to the NCAA quarterfinals. We were playing. Who were playing? They're from, I think they're from Indiana, UIndy. We were playing them. We were winning. I think it was like 9-. It was a very low score, really, really good game. We were winning going into the fourth quarter. They tied it in the fourth quarter. There was 43 seconds left on the clock, and a rainstorm came. Rain delay, thunderstorm. 43 seconds left on the clock. Both teams go back to the locker room. We're in the locker room for, I think, 4 hours.
Oh, my gosh.
We would get pizza for after the games and stuff. The pizza had been delivered already. So we're sitting in the locker room. We're smelling pizza. We're getting tired. It's the end of the game. Like, we're all exhausted.
Yeah.
Hungry. We're in the locker room smelling pizza. We're sitting there for 4 hours. Rain delay is over. We go back. Goes into overtime. The first face-off. They take it down. Fast break. They score.
Ugh.
And we were, like, so defeated. We were so angry. But, super, super memorable. Not a happy ending, but.
That, again, I think that is such a good indicator of mindset and motivation too, because like you said, you guys were exhausted. And it's important to note too that when you started that rain delay, you probably had no idea it was going to last 4 hours.
No, it was, yeah.
You're hoping for 30 minutes because that's typically like, okay, it's just going to be 30 minutes. We're going to wait for this to pass. And then, whatever, we'll get back on the field. We'll finish the last 43 seconds and call it good. And, an hour into it and then 2 hours into it and 3 hours into it, you're like, what in the world is happening? Like, you're hungry, you're tired. Now you're 3 hours into a break of a game that you had planned on finishing 3 hours prior. Yeah, what did you guys do anything to try to get back in that mindset?
We tried the same, like everyone's pregame ritual. The music was playing in the locker room and people screaming, all that kind of stuff. Everyone kind of got back into it, but I think some people were kind of like, I just want this game to be over. Like, I don't care what the ending is. Yeah. But it was a good learning experience because it was my freshman year, so I figured, okay, well, this was a pretty easy season. Like, did really well as a team. Made it to the NCAA playoffs, did the selection show and everything. I was like, this is awesome. I can't wait till next year. We do this next year. And then we didn't make it next year. And then the next year we didn't make it again and then didn't make it again. So learning to really cherish those moments, especially as an athlete, you might make it to the championship this year, but if you don't give it your all, you might never have the chance to do it again. So giving it your 100% in all those situations and not knowing you're going to have that shot again.
I love that so much. Clarke, I'm going to get to you in a second, but I want to add something real quick because both of you also, you were on the high school team during the COVID pandemic. And one thing I tell all of our players, because my son also was a senior that year, and the one thing I make sure to share with all of our players now is play every game at 100%. Play it as if it might be your last game because you never know when it's your last game. If you're lucky, you do know when it's your last game. You can hang up the cleats, right? You can hang up the cleats and be like, you know what? I've had a great career. I've lived a good life so far. It's time to close this chapter, move on to the next. But for those players in 2020, they didn't know it was their last game. Some of those players, they played their last game and never, ever got closure. They didn't even go back to school. And it's just like, it's this open-ended chapter in their lives that's forever going to be there. And if they didn't play 100%, that's what they're living with. That was the way their career ended. And it's just like, play every game like it might be your last. I'm not trying to be morbid here, but you never know. Yeah. So, Clarke, what about you? You have a sort of an experience that jumps out at you, something memorable?
Probably both. I have two games that really come to mind, but both happened this past year, my senior year in college. We were part of the Sun Conference. That's the conference that we were in. And we had won previously Sun Conference championship, got a ring. It was super cool. And then...
You're not wearing it?
No, I should have.
Show that bling.
And so this year my senior year, we made it to the Sun Conference Championship, and we were playing a team that was a pretty difficult team that we played throughout the season. But it's like these girls it's called Kaiser. They're in, I think, like West Palm Beach.
Yep.
Around there.
Yeah, they're good.
And it was so it was hot. It was so hot. Like you step on the turf and you're already drenched in sweat. But we ended up playing them in the championship, and it was a really tight game the entire game. Like everyone is dead. And I think we were maybe down or we were tied going into like the second half, and got not yelled at, but kind of got pushed a little bit around by the coach. And she's like, what are you guys doing? And we were like, I don't really know, actually. Maybe we should all start playing. And it was like, honestly, it was like a flip switch. And we came out and we were hot. Like we were just goal, goal, goal. And we ended up winning. And it was just awesome. Like being my senior year, like if you win conference, you get a bid to nationals. So then we were like, okay, we're going to nationals. Like and nationals were in Savannah last year. So it was just a really exciting moment. Like I cried on the field. I was like, oh my God. But that was a really, really fun game, and everybody enjoyed playing. And then my second one would probably be the game that I got my 200th college career goal in.
Wow.
Just because my team was pretty small team. I think we had like 3, maybe 4 subs. So everybody, like we really were a family. Like we were so close. We knew details about every single girl's life on the team. Like we knew everything about each other, and everyone was so happy. Like nobody was like ever jealous of anybody. So it was like when I got that goal, my coach like gave me the ball and whatever. Everyone was just really happy, and like I think I also cried that time too, because it was just like everybody was just like one big family. It was awesome, and I was like, yes, get to finish my college career like this. Like this is just sick. Like
that's cool.
Great. Yeah,
that's awesome.
I think they stopped the game.
Yeah, they did.
They stopped the game and announced it over the loudspeaker too. It was pretty cool.
Oh, really? Wow. That's incredible. I appreciate you guys sharing that. That's always good to hear. Yeah. And I think it's, those stories kind of bring it to life, because I think even to a lot of high school players, a college player or being on a college team seems like, a pipe dream. Maybe it's, it's just, that's for kids who are much better athletes. That's not me. What would you say to someone who had that sort of mindset?
Well, that it's not true, that there's so many different avenues to play in college. I think it's important to be honest with yourself. That's definitely super important. Realizing that maybe the dream of going to the big school, or the opposite way, thinking I'm not good enough, but you are good enough to go to the big school. So being honest with yourself, taking outside influence or critique, and just finding the best school for you, the best team for you. I mean, there's D1, D2, D3. Clarke played NAIA. And I think she can agree that was the best school, the best experience for her. Mm-hmm. I never wanted to go anywhere else. I know Division II was the best experience for me. Like we were talking about earlier, the work-life balance. It was the perfect amount of everything for both me and Clarke. It took a lot of research to find those 2 schools. You may need to reach out to coaches. They may not reach out to you right away, but knowing that if your goal is to play collegiate lacrosse, it's totally attainable, and it just might take a little work, but just because it's hard, you shouldn't shy away from it. Yeah, I mean, I think that it comes down to basically, if you tell yourself it's not going to happen, it won't happen.
Well, and I think I don't remember if it was a coach. I think it was a coach at some point said something like, you're only as good as how hard you work or something. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like really speaks for itself. Like Noah said, it's hard. It's not easy. by any means. And I think putting in the work and putting in the extra work, but also like realizing, like, kind of piggybacking off you, like, what's the right fit for you? Mm-hmm. Like, just because I played with girls that went D1, and I was like, oh, D1, like, good, like, I'm good for them, that's awesome, but that's not for me. Like, I wouldn't have succeeded probably succeeded, but not as excelled in that type of environment, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think, I'm pretty sure my dad brought it up on the podcast, but like, going somewhere that's good for you and not just following what everybody else does because it's like the thing to do. And also, like, looking at, he brought up divisions, like most people look at them like this, and like looking at them kind of like laterally, because it really is. A lot of people think NAIA is a lower tier, which I could agree in some teams in the NAIA, but I played a lot of girls, and I played with a lot of girls that are all from up north. They're all New York, they're all Maryland, they're all New Jersey, and they were really good players that just didn't want the work that a Division I college is, you know?
Yeah.
And I think what happens too a lot of times is people feel the need to have to explain themselves, like why are you going, here's why I'm going NAIA, here's why I'm going Division II or Division III. And I remember it super vividly in high school for Gulf Breeze. I was jogging, I think we just scored against Pensacola High School. And I was jogging back to get in position at point for attack. And the guy that was guarding me asked me where I was going to school next year. And I said Bellman Abbey, and then immediately followed it up with, it's a really good Division II school, trying to explain myself. You know what I mean? This guy stopped me, like, dude, you don't have to explain yourself to me. Like, I get it. He's like, you're a good player. Like, you're right, man. I was like, I don't need to explain myself. Like, if this is the right decision for me, this is the right decision for me. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. And then, like, this dude, I wish I had gotten his name or something. It was the weirdest experience. You know what I mean? It was like a light bulb went off. And he's like, dude, like, if it's the spot for you, it's the spot for you. It's all that matters. And I was like, you're right, man. Yeah, thank you. And then from that point forward, like, I didn't feel the need to have to explain myself. And I think that's important for people to know. Like, if you're happy with where you're going, that is the only thing that matters. So don't get caught up in what the name of the school is. If it's Clarke wanted to do design, so he went to SCAD. It's the place to go for design, and it was the perfect fit for Clarke. So that's where she went, and that's all that really matters.
I'm really glad you brought that up because you're right. Your dad and I did talk about it, and we've actually talked about it before. And one of the things he mentioned to me that I have sort of like adopted and shared with all the players that I continue to coach who might want to play in college is simply, like you said, find a school that fits for you. And if they happen to have lacrosse, that's even better. But it doesn't really matter what that team looks like. I know for my boys in particular, they both, my son Trey, I think, Noah, you remember Trey? He picked a school that was Division II, and it was not a good fit for him. And he ended up not finishing so far. So that's something to think about. Like, he picked what he thought was the right school because it had the D2 moniker to it, and it was a competitive team. But at the end of the day, if you can't keep your grades up, if you're not interested in the classes you're taking, or if you don't fit well with the environment, it's just not a good fit and you're not going to succeed there. Whereas, my younger son, he originally picked a D2 school. And then after a year, he decided, like, this isn't a good fit for me. I want to go somewhere where I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm going to finish college and enjoy my classes. And he found a school. It happened to be an MCLA team and they're really, really good. And they finished number 8 in MCLA last year. I think they lost to Air Force, and that Air Force club team is basically all the D1 athletes that either can't keep their grades up or don't want the stress of playing D1 because they just got a pilot slot or something. And so they're they're really, really good, and that's the team they lost to. So it's like, there's nothing to hang your head about there. You play on a very competitive national MCLA team. They're good. I mean, those players are really good. They just don't have to go through some of those same obstacles that your D1, D2 players have to overcome. And my youngest son, when he was looking at colleges, he said the funniest thing, but I thought it was so true. He just said, I am only going to go wherever my brother goes. He wanted to play with his brother. He wanted to continue because he played with him in high school. He wanted to continue playing. And his philosophy was like, we work so well together, and I already know he's done his homework on it. So if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me.
Wow.
And sure enough, that's where they're at. So they're still playing college together, college lacrosse, and it's super exciting to see. So I'm glad you guys brought that up because that's an important concept for all the future players and even the parents. I think if you're a parent, and I'm telling you, parent to parent, let your kids choose the college. Don't choose it for them.
Nope.
Let your kids choose because ultimately they're the ones responsible for it. It's so important.
And the opportunities are growing too. Like, between here and USA, it's crazy. These kids are going to have opportunities like everywhere come the next couple of years, I think. So,
Well, there was a guy back in the day too. I don't know if you guys know him, Bro Chill. Connor Martin is his real name, but he was a famous YouTuber. Who went Bro Chill. He played, I think it's called Chatham. It's a school, and it's a MCLA school in California. It's a film school. He went there, played there for 4 years, doing what he wanted to do, which was film. Then graduated from there, and then got drafted into the MLL to the Ohio Machine, and was like a starting attackman there for a few years while he was making these funny YouTube videos on the side. So I mean, you can do whatever you want. And if you haven't looked up Bro Chill, he makes hilarious lacrosse videos from like a decade ago. It's hilarious stuff.
JP, make sure that ends up on our list.
I could probably spell it wrong and still get it.
Yeah, we have. So I got to tell you guys, we have a little list going and we're going to publish soon. It's anytime we ask our guests, like, what's your favorite podcast? What's your favorite book? What's your favorite? Anytime they bring up something like that, we're just like, all right. So we're going to have this whole list that we publish of all these favorite things. It's just going to be this amazing library of resources for people that want to get into the minds of all the guests and all the people we talk to. So I appreciate you sharing that because you just made the list.
Yeah, I got that on one single note on my page, Bro Chill.
Yeah. That's the only thing you're going to take away from this interview.
No. A lot more.
All right. I want to ask you a couple of questions. I try to ask these to all the former players or the officials or coaches. Is there anything growing up that you kind of wish you did more of? Especially if it's lacrosse related, but it doesn't have to be.
I mean, obviously lacrosse related, you can never be on the bounce back too much. You can never take enough lacrosse. You can never shoot enough. You can never bounce back enough.
Kind of. I despised the bounce back growing up. Noah was always out there on it. My dad would be like, "Oh, go hit the bounce back," and I'm like, "No, I don't like it." But it actually came back to bite me because in college, we had to take videos of us on the bounce back, hitting reps, and send it to our coach. So I was like, oh, if I just learned to like it, it would have been so much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
But I think definitely hitting the bounce back and just
any running too. Obviously, I know we did cross country for a year in high school. The biggest difference ever. It teaches you how to like running, so it's the terrible part of the game of lacrosse, running up and down the field. You learn to like that part. You know what I mean? I mean, anything that makes you better, really.
Yeah. Is there anything you guys wish you did less of? Like you spent too much time focusing on this aspect, and you realize this is useless or this doesn't benefit me in any way?
I don't
I'll give you a hint. I'll tell you what my boys said when I asked them the same question. When they transitioned from high school to college, what they said was, and they both agreed, that they wish they had spent more time learning to dodge and learning to shoot on the run, because all their time they spent practicing, they were pretty much stationary. They would just practice their accuracy and try to hit different parts of the goal, but they were just like, they would barely move their feet. They were fundamentally stationary. And you, obviously, both of you know that it's a fair assessment that somewhere in the ballpark of 75 to 90% of your shots are going to be on the run. Yeah. So that's one thing they said. Is there anything, now that I've said that, is there anything that jumps out as like, I probably should have done less of this and focused on something else?
Well, I mean, you did. Now that you say it, there was a dead spot of grass in my backyard the size of my feet, because I would stand there and shoot from there the whole time in my backyard. So yeah, I guess, just I wish I had done maybe a little less of that and more of the movement part of shooting maybe like making shots that happen off your back foot, or hitching and going topside, or doing the rolls underneath. You know what I mean? Like,
just not focusing on one specific shot, because the chances of all your shots being the exact same shot selection are very slim, especially in such a fast-paced game. But I think like focusing more on like shots on the run, and then shots from like, oh, maybe normally, yes, I'm in this area, but what if I'm down by the crease? Like shooting from all different spots, rather than being like, well, this is my spot. I stand here. I'm going to shoot right here.
Behind the backs, around the walls.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, if you could go back in time and tell your first year self, the first time you picked up a stick. So Noah, you got to go back to when you're 4 years old, basically. Clarke, maybe, back to middle school or elementary school. But if you could tell your first year self something, what would that be?
Probably just to enjoy it, because it really does go by so fast. And I know everybody, like people that were above me in school, and they would always be like, oh, enjoy it. Like, it goes by really fast. And I'd be like, oh, yeah. But it really does. And, like, I think just appreciating, like, the little things about it, like the friends you make along the way, the coaches that have taught you things that you never thought you could be able to do. So just appreciating, like, the little things of the game and what the game can give you and what the game offers you, rather than being so technical about just little things that, in the end of the day, don't really matter.
Yeah, just like enjoy it while you got it, kind of thing. It's like you're not gonna, but you can have it forever. But the ultra competitive, super high paced game is for a very short stint of your lacrosse career. So enjoying that part as much as you can. Maybe not looking forward to like, oh, I can't wait till I'm at this school or this point. Can't wait to that part of the season. It's not like you said earlier, like, what if you don't make it that far? Like, enjoy the spot you're in now. Really, really cherish that part.
So now that your college lacrosse careers, that chapter is closed for you guys, what is next? Is that too much, Clarke? Is that too deep?
No, I'm taking, I don't know that I'll ever play lacrosse again. I've thought about maybe coaching, but I'm playing for year round for 14 years. Like that takes a toll on you and like on your body. And I haven't played since, well, that's not true. I actually went to my alumni game and played in September, and I didn't realize, like, I was so out of shape compared to the girls that had started fall ball. I was like, I think I still got it. And then I touched the field, and I'm like, ooh, sup? Like, I don't do this anymore.
Like, hit me. I need it. Hit me.
But, yeah, I'm trying to just enjoy. Lacrosse was such a big part of my life, and I made it so appreciative of the sport, but kind of figuring out like who I am without lacrosse, because I feel like lacrosse was kind of just like always just on the back of our last name, or, you know, just figuring out, like, without lacrosse in my life, like, okay, who am I? What do I want to do? And I just think that's really exciting because the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, chapter hasn't been written yet.
No.
Yeah. What about you, Noah?
Like Clarke said, I was, after college, I was kind of a little burned out. I honestly haven't thought about it that much since graduating. A few weeks ago, I actually, for the first time, put my stick back together from that All-Star game. It was still separated in my airport bag in the closet. Wow. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'll play men's league again at some point. I'm sure I'll coach at some point in the future, but I'm definitely enjoying my time away from lacrosse. Kind of like Clarke said, like finding other things I'm passionate about, or getting other hobbies. You know, kind of diversifying. Like it's been lacrosse it's been sport lacrosse for 20 years basically. So kind of just on to what's next. And I'm sure lacrosse will come back around in the future, but I'm enjoying my time away from lacrosse right now.
Well, like both you mentioned before, it's about balance. And lacrosse is one of those things that has the ability to affect our lives forever without necessarily us being a part of it forever. It's a part of us, but even if we're not a part of it. And the lessons that we learn from the game and the friendships and relationships that we have, those are the things that we get to carry with us. So
you're always a part of the community for sure.
Yeah,
it's like a three-person rule. You're always three people away from someone you play lacrosse with, basically.
Yeah, awesome. JP, we need to cut these two loose because it's getting late where they're at. But what final questions do you have for them?
Oh, that's pretty much it, man. They pretty much answered everything. You know, I mean, we have to do this again. There'll have to be a part 2. I would definitely say that for sure. So, well, I mean, honestly, we could go like forever, you know, but we don't want to keep you all night. So,
thanks for having us.
Yeah,
it's a lot easier.
I appreciate you guys willing to do this. All right, real quick, if someone did want to get a hold of you and ask questions about lacrosse or sort of the college process or how to transition from high school to lacrosse and play at that level, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Probably by email. So it's Noah, NOAHHAAS 816 @gmail.com.
Okay, it's okay if I put that in the show notes. I mean, it's going to be on the transcript now anyway, so.
Yeah, probably email or like Instagram for me. I feel like I probably check my Instagram more often than I check my emails.
Yeah.
But mine's just Clarke Haas for my Gmail, and then Clarke.Haas for Instagram.
Well, Clarke, Noah, I appreciate it. Like I said at the beginning, you two were some amazing players to have to coach against, and I appreciate you guys being willing to jump on here and share your experiences and sort of your journey with lacrosse. JP, do you have any final questions for these two before we cut them loose?
No, I'm good. I got to think about the Combro chill, you know. I'll have to look that up when I'm done. That's the first thing I'm going to do.
That's right. All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening to this podcast. We appreciate you being here. Again, if you want to track down Clarke or Noah and ask them about their career, we're going to drop that information in the show notes. And outside of that, we hope you join us next week. But this is First City Lacrosse, the second greatest lacrosse podcast on the planet. Be a good human. Get your reps in. We will see you next time. Take care, everybody.
If you like what you hear, drop us a like and follow wherever you downloaded this podcast from, and on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at First City Labs. Check back every week for more content. Thank you for being a part of the First City Lacrosse podcast.